Hi, it's Brian Brackens from the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center's Public Affairs Office. In this leadership log, we're speaking with Lieutenant Colonel Juan Ramirez. He's the material leader of the Avionics Branch in Combat Avionics Division, part of the Agile Combat Support Directorate. We'll talk about aspects of moving target integration and tracking and its importance with winning future fights.
Targeting pods, they have been specialized against trying to engage targets on the ground during that global war on terror phase. And we're doing a lot of work right now in order to help take the technology that exists and modify it, modernize it, and apply additional capabilities into it.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're looking at parts of moving target engagement, one of the Air Force's operational imperatives. It's a big topic, and we've asked Lieutenant Colonel Juan Ramirez to help guide us through some elements of it. Sir, before we get started, if you don't mind, give us a baseline and just tell us, folks, a little bit about your Air Force career and how you ended up in the Agile Combat Support Directorate.
Yes, so my name is Lieutenant Colonel Juan Ramirez. I'm currently the material leader for the Avionics Branch at Robins Air Force Base within Agile Combat Support Directorate. This is not my first time in Agile Combat Support, so I've kind of bounced around, but I started off my career as an engineer, actually, before becoming a program manager. I graduated from the Air Force Academy with a mechanical engineering degree. And the first part of my career, a lot of it was in test. So doing developmental test at Eglin, operational test at Nellis Air Force Base, and then really getting into the program office about mid-career in the C-130J program office. Went to simulators after a deployment to Al Udeid Simulators Division, which is part of Agile Combat Support, and did some work as a staff officer in AFLCMC Lifecycle Management Center as a senior officer management chief. And from there, moved over to here in my material leader job.
So, can you talk a little bit about what you do as the material leader for the Avionics Branch?
Yeah, so material leader is equivalent to a squadron command position in our construct in AFLCMC and acquisitions in general. We've got branches for squadrons. We've got for our group level, we have divisions, and then for the wing level, it's a directorate as rough equivalents. And so I lead a multifunctional team for like engineering, contracting, finance, configuration management, test, all those folks, as well as program managers and logistics managers, in order to deal with my portfolio, which avionics portfolio is pretty broad. But our biggest item the most recognizable item within our portfolio is the targeting pods. So a lot of folks have probably seen on the news or even in a lot of pictures when it comes to the aircraft that we have in our inventory, the lightning pod as well as the sniper pod. Those are the biggest, most recognizable elements of the avionics branch.
So what exactly does a targeting pod do?
So the targeting pod has several different features, but it really spawned out of the global war on terror. So the past 20 plus years of combat that we had been engaged in, where we really needed to have a good ability to look down from high up in the sky, get good fidelity on a target on the ground, be able to apply weapons to that target in several different ways, whether it's be using like lasers to designate the target, or be able to track and follow people as well.
I know some of the work that you do involves like supporting the long range kill chain. If you don't mind, can you just explain what that means?
Yeah, so the kill chain in general. So first I'll talk about kill chain, and then I'll talk about the long range element of it. So kill chain is in our doctrine and a lot of our joint doctrine as well. We talk about kill chain, and it's defined as an acronym F2T2EA. So find, fix, track, target, engage, assess. So breaking it down a little bit further and maybe putting it in terms that are a little bit easier to digest. if you were to like pull out your iPhone and you were to like get the Maps app out, if you were to try to like find yourself on it, when it first boots up, you've got that bigger blue bubble. And that's kind of like it's trying to find you, right? But as you keep it open and it gets more pings from the GPS, it starts to narrow in on your actual location. So that would be the finding to the fix element. So fixing is like getting closer and more precise on where you are. And then from there, you want to be able to track a target, right? So the whole thing with the kill chain is that you want to get from finding something to actually employing a weapon against it and then making sure that it's dead. So now you want to be able to track it if it moves. And then targeting is when you look at the different menu of ways that you can apply, a weapon system against it. So all the weapon systems that carry it, which is the most appropriate thing that you will use to attack that target. And then from there, you actually engage it. So when we're talking about moving target engagement, that's where we're at, the engagement phase. So actually launching that weapon toward the target and then assessing whether, we have completed the job or not. So that's the kill chain aspect of it. Long range really speaks to how we've evolved now in combat, going from basically you being able to see what you're shooting at to now you're beyond line of sight. You're way out far away. You're launching weapons and you can't even see with your naked eye what you're shooting at. And being able to close that chain of events in order to effect a kill and rely on all the different elements that help get that weapon from the shooter to the target.
As our mission has evolved and, we're now in the era of great power competition, are targeting pods still relevant?
Yeah, that's a great question. So targeting pods, they have been specialized against trying to engage targets on the ground during that global war on terror phase. And we're doing a lot of work right now in order to help pivot that proven technology, because it's worked. We've gotten really good at moving target engagement on the ground with those systems, pivoting it to more of a great power competition flavor. So we have now adversaries that we're looking at that have similar capabilities to us. They have more weapon systems that we need to engage, and being able to take the technology that exists and modify it, modernize it, and apply additional capabilities into it in order to engage those targets both in the air and on the ground. One point I do want to make, though, is that a lot of times when we talk about these operational imperatives, we shorten it a little bit so that it's a little easier to remember. So we talked about moving target engagement, but in the full context of what Secretary Kendall had initially envisioned, he had said that it was achieving moving target engagement at scale and in a highly contested environment. And I think those pieces that we've trimmed out are extremely relevant and important to mention, because those really highlight what the problem is. Like, we have gone over time so good at moving target engagement. It's just that we're now moving into an environment where it's becoming increasingly more difficult because of the scale of targets that we have to hit within a certain amount of time. So shorter amount of time, more targets, and the environment is highly contested. So there's either assets that are pushing us further out, so it's harder to get close and shoot, or we've got like jammers, and the environment is very cluttered to the point where it's very hard to know what target we're actually hitting. So I think those are all really important aspects to mention when we talk about these operational imperatives, specifically moving target engagement.
Yeah, and those challenges are all aspects that your team is clearly working to resolve.
Yes, and looking at the bigger picture of where the Air Force is heading, my piece with the targeting pods is a very small portion of it. Albeit very important, it's still a small piece, because if you look at all the operational imperatives, they're all kind of linked together. And so, when we talk about what are other ancillary important aspects to being able to get to, achieving moving target engagement in this new environment. One really important thing is how resilient is our infrastructure in space? How resilient, how much redundancy do we have in our communication nodes to be able to talk to the shooters, to be able to help bring our system, our weapon system, all the way through to the kill in the end game. So those are all really important things to think about.
So does having increasing space-based capabilities or assets, does that help your team?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion just in general about like what's it look like in a conflict when we have a day without space, because that's a very hard area to access, and it's a very difficult area to reconstitute if it is attacked. So having more assets definitely helps from a redundancy standpoint, but I think the more important aspect to focus on is the resilient aspect. So we've become over time very reliant on GPS. A lot of our weapons are GPS enabled. It's been something that has allowed us to be very successful in the global war on terror, and honestly, even against near peer ally or near peer competitors, having that precision strike capability is really important. But going back to the flavor of that operational imperative, the highly contested element of the environment has made it very difficult to rely on space-based assets. And so having not necessarily more assets up there, but more resilient assets, both in space as well as within the air and ground realms, is really important in order for us to be successful.
Are there any modernization or resiliency efforts that you can publicly talk about that your team is working on or working with industry on?
So recently there was a news release for our Lightning program, the Lightning Pod. It's one of the two pods that are fielded already,
Yeah.
but what they're making some strides to be able to pivot toward what they're calling the large aperture modification, which will allow us to have even further lookout range, as well as abilities to better classify and identify like different targets and whatnot. So it's going to help us to pivot, as you've mentioned, pivot from the global war on terror to that great power competition. On the sniper pod side, that's been a very successful program as well. One of the big things that's going on there is, making sure that we have the data links available to be able to do the downlink to the operators in a secure fashion.
How important is industry or working with industry to what you do?
Yeah, the defense industry is extremely important partners for us. We as an entire Air Force enterprise, DoD enterprise, like we need industry, and a lot of it comes down to just their ability to be creative in solving these problems, and so we really rely on them to remain engaged with us, figure out how we can be good partners with them, and seek different solutions that will keep us in an overmatch, so a supremely better situation than our competitors in different countries.
Are you collaborating with any other government agencies or military services on some of your work?
Yeah, so for the targeting pod specifically, we work a lot with the Navy. They have a very robust aviation element, especially with the F-18s. So we work a lot with the Navy. When it comes to foreign partners, we've got foreign military sales. So part of what I think makes the United States so good is that we have those foreign partners engaged with our defense industry and our making sure that we build up their partner capability so that if we do get in a conflict, we can call upon them to augment our team, our forces, and really answer the call so that we can be winners in any sort of conflict together.
So, are there any other projects or initiatives your team is working on for the near future?
Like I said, the big thing is really the targeting pods. I mentioned the space stuff. So the other thing that goes on in our division, which is in the other branch, is position navigation and timing. And that honestly is one of the biggest buzzwords out there, just because it relates to the resiliency aspect of not just our space-based assets, but also the assets to get that going to our aircraft and ground systems. So making sure that we know where we are, because as a shooter, that you need to know where you are in relation to the target, and that's just as important when you're trying to figure out in the kill chain, how do you close the loop? You got to know where you are, you got to know where they are, and you got to make sure you know where your weapon is going from beginning to end. And so when you have such a congested environment, and the target's moving around and you're moving around, the PNT, so the position navigation and timing aspect of this whole problem, is extremely important.
Is there like any takeaways or anything that you want folks within the wider AFL-CMC community to know about your team and what you do?
Yeah, so I think there are several different things that come to mind. One of which is, when we talk about these external pods that get
Yeah.
hung on aircraft, a lot of times we're talking about like fourth generation aircraft. And if you look at what's in, the different budgeting documents and what's in the news and stuff, like everything is talking about fifth gen and sixth gen, which a lot of that's all like integrated systems, new development, big, exquisite technologies, all packed into one robust airframe. And so I think it's important to remember that those technologies, while they're great and they're going to be pivotal to making sure that we stay in that overmatched realm against our adversaries, the fourth generation fleet, that's the preponderance of what we have today. And so we can't just always bank on what's coming tomorrow. We need to make sure that we're being very creative and looking at different opportunities to bolster what we have in the inventory today. And targeting pod, some of the success stories that we're seeing with the large aperture and whatnot, and the pivoting of those technologies from a previous conflict to the current conflict, I think is an important thing to remember as different systems are being retired, and then other systems are being looked at for modernization. And so when we're looking at the future fight, it can't just be the one exquisite system that's out there. We need to be looking at a situation where every platform is a sensor. We have systems of systems. We need to be looking at not just the kill chain, but also the kill web, right? The proliferation of the different ways and means that we can get to that common end. So for everybody who's working on different programs, if it's a very legacy system, like try to think of different ways to be creative and be able to communicate what are the opportunities that we have with this existing system, other than just letting it, waste away and then be retired. Because while we're waiting for those 6th gen platforms to get here, we still need to be able to fight and win today.
Wow. Well, sir, this is certainly a great conversation. Enjoy talking to you. Is there anything you would like to add?
I appreciate the time and letting me talk about what I do and my portfolio. My team is awesome. Like I have 150 folks who every single day they're making an impact for the warfighter. Whether it's on the USAF side, through the Navy, or our foreign partners, and the work that they do is really important, and I'm really proud of them.
There's so much that I want to ask, but clearly I know there's some constraints based on what you do. So again, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.